Hey geeks, thanks for joining us today. On the phone are Bill Motz and Bob Roth, the creator, minds, and executive producers behind the Emmy Award nominated Lego Star Wars The Freemaker Adventures. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Oh,
Hey, thank you for having us.
I really appreciate it. You guys hit two nerves of love from my childhood, Legos and Star Wars. Tell me, how did you guys, I was doing research on you both, how did you guys find each other?
That's a good question. We met in the summer of 1990 at a USC summer production workshop. I was already graduated from college, and I was working as a cameraman and editor, and Bob was actually still in college.
I had a year to finish.
And so we both had seen an ad in Premiere Magazine. There's a throwback for you. For this summer workshop at USC, and of course, we were both huge George Lucas fans, of course, and wanted to go there because that's where George went to school. Maybe some of the magic would rub off. And so we met at the school. We had to sort of do a real quick whirlwind, meet the students, and then begin partnering up to make a short
film.
live action film. So Bob and I hit it off because we both said, "What's your favorite movie?" Star Wars. And so
friendship was born.
Friendship was born, and we ended up working well together over that summer. And then not quite, I guess a year later, right? About a year later. We were sort of invited to pitch on the show Darkwing Duck for Disney television animation. And Bob had just moved to Los Angeles from New York, and I was still in Colorado at the time. And we began pitching to Disney, and eventually they bought one of our ideas. So I ended up eventually moving out here, and we've been working together ever since.
Yeah.
Wow, so Darkwing Duck, huh?
Yeah.
Darkwing Duck.
Exactly.
That's where it all started.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's again another childhood memory. What has been your process when it comes to writing as a duo?
Screaming at each other and punching. No. Honestly, what we do is we talk a lot. We've got a big cork board here. We use index cards and Sharpie pens, and we just sort of, the first thing we do once we settle on just sort of the rough area of a story, we write up all the cards we can think of just, okay, let's see how many ideas do we have for this idea. Throw them up on the board. Then we kind of start, moving the cards around to see, can that actually become a story?
What's the shape here?
Yeah.
And what we love about the index cards is there's a tactile thing about it that, if an idea's not working, you can rip it in half. It's very satisfying that way.
And you can move them around.
You can actually burn the idea.
Yeah, people love whiteboards. A lot of other writers use whiteboards, but I love being able to take a card and go, no, it goes over here, and all that.
Yeah, and I know a number of the writing programs also try to supposedly emulate 3x5 cards, but we feel like What's
the point?
Yeah, the actual 3x5 card, being able to, there's something, the crudeness of it, of just writing out in a Sharpie and sticking it on with a pin. You don't commit to the idea like you do when you type it. I think.
And there's a visual element of it. We've gotten pretty good at being able to look at, all right, that's enough cards for a story, or that's not enough, or that's too many. So by the time it gets to screen, we can't remember who wrote what.
So I think we just mutually both take credit for everything.
Yes.
Doing that you're doing the Star Wars Lego Freemaker Adventures, would you consider yourselves legitimate Star Wars fans, or are you doing it for the work?
Oh my goodness! So here's
somebody about a month ago. Somebody on Twitter, and I don't want to call them out by name because they actually felt horrible about it. Said, I get the sense that they're not really true Star Wars fans, and that just made me laugh. I actually showed it to my wife, and she bust out laughing because since May 1977, I would say at least 85% of my brain has been consumed with Star Wars at all times, at any given moment. Birth of my son, 85% of my brain was going, can I get this kid into Star Wars? We work out of my guest house, and Bill will attest to this.
Yep.
It is floor to ceiling covered with Star Wars posters, Star Wars toys. Anywhere I'm running out of room. It's really a problem.
I mean, original comic book pages. There's storyboard panels.
If I don't count as a true Star Wars fan, then there are no Star Wars fans.
Yeah. Bob and Steve Sansweet could rumble over whose Rancho.
So Carrie Beck, our
executive at
Lucasfilm, you're aware of what Rancho Obi-Wan is. I'm sure, right? Steve Sansweet's got this amazing collection up in the San Francisco area.
Yeah. Next to Skywalker Ranch,
a warehouse full of toys. And I'm not going to make the claim that my collection rivals his. I've got a much smaller space. So Carrie Beck actually
she came over.
She coined the term, or gave it the name, christened it Rancho Rowan. It's
and then the fine folks at Lego ended up building for Bob out of Lego a Rancho Rowan sign, which hangs now on the
outside the guest house. So
anybody who's seen the Freemaker Adventures, to make that claim that you're not Star Wars fans is kind of crazy, because I was watching that, I'm like, this is written by fans. Like, there's so much in this that if you're a Star Wars fan, you're hearing words and names and places of planets and characters, and that, obviously you guys are fans. I'll rumble on your side for you.
Okay, thank you.
It's funny, Bob every day wears a Star Wars shirt. We've had, even just yesterday, someone asked us, do you just wear those because you work on the show? And
nope.
I was like, no, that's been my wardrobe for quite a long time.
I mean, honestly, before we started the show, once we knew, like, they liked our pitch and they were making an offer and we were working out the terms of, payment and all that, we both had a hesitation of, like, wait a minute, what if we do this and it's such a, bone-grinding experience that we wind up hating Star Wars? Is this really worth doing, knowing that's the risk? And we both paused and said, because that's a big thing, because neither of us want to think about what our lives would be if we suddenly hated Star Wars.
I mean, the risk of, as it were, being part of the magic like that is, you can maybe not, the fear is, if I know how the sausage is made, maybe it's not as special. The great surprise was, thankfully we decided, yes, are you kidding? We're idiots.
We rolled the dice and said, it's going to work out fine, and it did.
And it actually it's exceeded our wildest expectations of how good it would be and how fun it would be and how collaborative and supportive it would be. So if anything, if it was even possible, it has enhanced our connection with Star Wars. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, become more with the Force.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
What is your favorite movie from the series?
Oh, boy. All right, so here's one of those places where Bob and I will have debate.
It's not much of a debate.
Yes.
Listen, to me, the entire magical experience goes back to that night in May 1977. And, walking into that theater and sitting down without any direction in my life. I was only 7. I didn't need direction at that age, but nevertheless, I was just a 7-year-old dopey little kid. And then it all unfolded in front of me, and by the end of it, I don't know that I could have told you I want to be a writer or I want to make a Lego Star Wars cartoon show, but by the end of it, I knew I wanted to do that. I wanted to make things like that. So that first movie is always, always, always going to have that special place in my heart.
And see, for me, it's Caravan of Courage.
Right.
No, it's very funny. Obviously, I love the original Star Wars for all the reasons that Bob said. But The Empire Strikes Back for me was a revelation in many ways because...
And me as well.
Yeah, that the depth then that movie brought to what I thought was a perfect experience. The danger, I thought, the challenge of a sequel is just how in the world do you ever even begin to touch the experience of the original thing, especially when the original thing was such a surprise and a revelation.
By the way, I'm wearing an Empire Strikes Back t-shirt right now, so I love that movie too. The beauty of that movie is it recreates the same excitement and deepens the characters, but it doesn't just,
it's not regurgitation.
It doesn't regurgitate. It doesn't retread. You think about what sequels were before The Empire Strikes Back, especially in this genre. You can go to action films. The James Bond movies, and I have great affection for the James Bond movies, but they're essentially playing the same theme over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Also literally, but it's just they're just slight variations on the same story.
Right.
That's not true of The Empire Strikes Back. That's a completely different story than A New Hope.
Yeah, I mean, you are enriching the characters. You the introduction of Yoda and the whole sort of deepening of what the Force is and the training of the Jedi. Of course, the huge revelation. Spoilers for any listeners that Darth Vader is Luke's father was that moment was just such a.
What?
You are literally saying what Luke is saying. No, that's impossible. Because it just seems like so that is such a gut punch, and yet when Vader says "search your feelings," it's true. Somehow, even as an audience, you're like, "It is true." And
no question about it.
And the sense of visual wonder with the AT-ATs or AT-ATs, depending on your point of view on how that should be pronounced. On
AT-ATs.
Hoth. All of that. Cloud City, just such a beautiful space. The introduction of Lando, the twist of that friend, the deepening of Leia and Han's relationship. So it's, I think it's just a beautiful film and kind of amazing, given the sort of daunting task they had to follow up such a cultural phenomenon, and to do it so well is just,
Do you think that had an influence on you in picking the timeline for the Freemaker Adventures? Because it seems to land right after Empire, right before Jedi, right?
It does. We picked that point strictly out of pragmatic purposes. I mean, it worked for our story as well, but we wanted to have, without going beyond the original trilogy, we wanted to have access to as many of the battles from the Star Wars movies as we could have.
So all the Clone Wars.
We knew we wanted to do something where we'd go to Hoth. We knew we'd want to go to Bespin at some point. So placing it between Empire and Jedi just made.
And we wanted to keep the Emperor and Vader.
And we wanted to keep the Emperor.
So
and Vader.
having them, an active part, that was the space in the timeline that we could.
It made a lot
carve
of sense.
out.
Yeah.
Plus, we love that era. So.
Yeah.
I mean, getting to record Billy D. Williams, for Pete's sake, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was.
Now, you guys mentioned Vader and the Emperor. In the Freemaker Adventures, the Emperor's got a wicked sense of humor. Darth Vader's got like some daddy issues he's working through, and it's funny and it works. And there's been a lot of hubbub recently about the change in solo directors from, I guess, they're making a comedy. How do you feel when you guys are playing with these normally serious characters, when you guys are taking liberties like this? And any backlash?
It's interesting that you've got to keep in mind that as much fun as we're having with them, these are the two scariest guys in the galaxy, and the Lego form allows us to take some liberties with them, but ultimately we always have to come back to they're evil and they're scary. And I'll say in season 2, they get even more evil, and especially Vader gets more scary.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till the audience gets to see our Vader episodes in season 2, because there are some moments that's like, wow, that is one
intimidating
guy. Yeah.
But at the same time, there's also plenty of goofy stuff in it as well. Our feeling is sort of, as we talk about, that the films show you those critical moments that are grave and and that kind of thing, and we show you sometimes the parts where the camera would have. Nobody would have filmed this, It's sort of like they're talking about lunch or something,
Well, and if you look at the Emperor in Return of the Jedi, especially, He's got kind of a sense of humor. He's
You
sarcastic.
want this, don't you? Kind of,
Oh, I'm afraid we'll be quite safe from your rebel friends here.
Yeah, there's some snark in him, so we're just sort of elevating that.
We're just dialing it up a little more. And Vader, certainly, I fall. There were all the debates around Rogue One. Was Vader too punny? Go back and look at the original films. He's full of,
yeah, that
little wry commentary. So again, we're just pushing Vader just a little.
And has a bit of daddy issues in terms of the whole master kind of idea in a way of who he belongs to. Mm-hmm. I think is somewhat seated there. Obviously ours is a goofier version on the whole than you would find in the actual canon material, but not so far. And we make sure that we keep them menacing. Mm-hmm. They are definitely formidable foes.
Right.
And they are going to get more so later on in season 2.
Yeah.
There's a scene coming up.
The Emperor stays more or less the Emperor we know and love from our show. But Vader, we push him a little darker and a little scarier.
Yeah, but there's a scene with Ian Rowan where it gets, it's. There's not any comedy in it. Mm-hmm, it's pretty intense. Yeah.
Nothing funny about that.
Well, you're gonna just have to wait. No more spoilers for you.
Yep.
Okay.
Now going back a little bit and talk a little about spoilers. Looking at season 1, one of my favorite things that I loved about season 1 was some of the loose ends you guys tied up, like Lando's clothes, like why he was wearing Han Solo's clothes.
Well, part of the fun of the show is looking for those tiny little moments, because I do remember sitting in the theater going, he's wearing Han's clothes. That's weird.
Like, why would he do that?
He must have, just gone back to the closet and was like, I lost my cape, I can't wear this blue blouse thing anymore. What's around to wear? And a guy who is as stylish as Lando was not going to be satisfied with the Henley shirt and black vest. That's not him. So, so that just sort of suggested, a funny little launching point for us. That Lando's got to get back some.
That was a brilliant moment in Star Wars history right there. I literally laughed out loud. And
well, we like that because
applauded.
It's one of those things for fans who, if you know the movies really well, that works for you. But
you don't have to know.
You don't have to know it for it to work. You can just Lando was really attached to his cape and he wanted it back.
So we try as much as we can to sort of have it work on those levels that you don't have to know the deep dive to get the comedy out of it or the joke out of it.
But if you do, you're going to get a little something extra.
Yeah, I love it. And then when watching, I saw a Star Tours ship.
Yes.
Yep.
We'll credit Will Film there. I don't think that was anything we wrote into the script.
Yeah, I think they did that.
They did that, and we were more than happy to see it. Will Film is our animation studio in Denmark.
Yeah,
great people.
Do beautiful work.
Yeah.
Are you guys aware of any Easter eggs or anything like that that haven't been really well known or talked about that you might want to share? Or drop some clues maybe for us to look for?
I don't know. I'm sure once we hang up, we'll be like, oh, there was that. But I gotta say, Star Wars fans are obsessive and they're observant. So they catch somebody. I search Twitter constantly for our show because I'm obsessive that way, and I'm pretty pleased that everybody gets some of the jokes at least. There's not much that's slipping by.
Yeah, that said, there's some stuff upcoming, of course, in season 2 where we do more of that. So it'll be fun to see how much people catch.
Catch, exactly.
Yeah.
With Rowan, you made it a point in season 1 to not identify him. He does not identify as a Sith or a Jedi, but a Force builder.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Is that like a medium between? Is it a gray Jedi? Have you guys been told to avoid that area?
More coming in season 2, and that's all we can say without giving away too much.
Yes, but it was something that was actually Lucasfilm's idea about something that grows out of, obviously building being important to Lego, but feeling that could also be a part of the mythology, the Force mythology. And anyway, so without going too far, that's kind of something that was
Cool.
Yeah, actually originated with them.
Okay. Very cool. So, any plans for appearances at Comic-Con coming up in a couple of weeks?
We'll be at Comic-Con, but there's no
There's nothing official.
Nothing official. I'm going just as a fan.
Yeah.
We did our big panel at Celebration. I wish we were doing a panel at Comic-Con, but no, there's no plans for that.
So, but if
people tweet at me and want to buy me a drink, I'll show up.
Yeah, and you'll know it's Bob because he'll be wearing a Star Wars shirt.
Yeah, you don't see many Star Wars shirts at Comic-Con.
Yeah, it'll be easy to find him.
Well, I was going to ask, are you still able to walk around freely amongst the public, or have you been noticed a lot now that the Freemakers has been such a big hit?
No, nobody knows who we are.
I did at Celebration. I did get recognized by the pool. I was taking my younger son down to the pool, and somebody said, "Hey, I was at London Celebration. I saw your panel, and you were great." And so,
yeah,
that was nice.
Yeah, it's funny, but it is funny because a lot of writers and and animation producers especially, we tend to be fairly invisible, and I think that's partly why we're not actors.
Right.
We tend to like being kind of behind the camera and anonymous. So it's what I do enjoy is that moment where people don't know who you are and you get to overhear something or hear their reaction to it. And we one time were at a Target store, and the person behind us in line was buying the Lego set of the Star Scavenger, and it was very fun to, that person had no idea who we were, and it was kind of nice to know, hey, there's somebody who actually is buying the thing from our show, and it's very cool. And so it's nice when you see people, like we had cosplayers at Celebration. There was somebody who made a life-size Roger that was just incredible. And we had someone that was cosplaying as Rowan, and then the other Freemaker family, and it was honoring and fun and flattering, and made you feel just that our work was connecting, which is always the hope, because we sit here in Bob's guest house and we write what we think is fun, and we go through the animation process, hoping that what we're putting on screen is actually going to please people. But then it goes out in the world, and you kind of like, well,
who knows?
I hope that
it was at Celebration this year. It was very gratifying. We aired our first full episode of the second season, or we screened it, and it was great to just sneak backstage and hear the audience cheer and laugh and gasp and all the all the rainbow of emotions, It was just, that's not an experience we get all that often, so that was really nice to have.
Yeah, to witness that. So that was a great gift. Thank you for everyone who went to the panel and responded.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys come full circle then. You guys were once the Padawan in the theater.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out today.
Patrick, you're very welcome. We were happy to do it. Thanks for
fun.
You can watch the adventures of Rowan Freemaker and some of the classic characters you love from the original Star Wars movies on the Star Wars The Freemaker Adventures, airing on Disney XD. Check your local listings for times. Thank you everyone for listening. Please make sure to go to our website, geekspeak.tv, to get the latest info on geek news, video games, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel and share us with your friends. Thank you all, and may the Force be with you.